fam of the hour. Hollow base finest, weep a willow, gem and flower. Things were all good, every day was the same. Then ding dong, their lives all changed. Second most wanted in the cosmos. Sold all this boss cause the space feds were too close. No more running around crushing lives at will. It's witness protection, sorry that's the deal. A fall from grace for someone so celestial. Now they got a cuz who's extraterrestrial. He's super evil and they're super good. It's Overlord.
Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed that opening trailer. Welcome into the special virtual event where we're going to be talking to the cast and crew of the first Canadian produced Black family comedy series on CBC Gem, Overlord and the Underwoods. My name is Samah and I'm the founder of Sisterhood Media, a production and distribution organization streaming on our own platform, Sisterhood Media TV. I also work at many different film festivals, some of which you may know, Doc NYC and Hot Docs being one of them. But most importantly, I am a Black Screen Office board member, and it is an honor to moderate this conversation today. Now, a few housekeeping notes. We're going to be having questions throughout the session, so feel free to pop any of your ideas, thoughts, and importantly, things that you want to ask the cast and crew into the Q&A function, or raise your hand and we'll get to you. There will also be Q&A, especially at the end of the session, so if you don't have anything now, feel free to think about it, and when the time comes, we'll get to you. There's also a closed caption button at the bottom of the screen if you need anything for accessibility requirements throughout this workshop today. Now, most importantly, before we get into anything, I would like to acknowledge and honor the land that we are on, which has been the site of human activity since time immemorial. The Black Screen Office HQ is located on the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River First Nations. These treaties and other agreements, including the One Dish with Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, are agreements to peaceably share and care for the land and its resources. We are all treaty people, and many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, and newcomers in this generation or generations past. We would like to also acknowledge those of us who came here forcibly, because not only is that a very particular experience as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, but also that's something we need to constantly acknowledge every day. Therefore, we honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. Now, before we get into this very juicy conversation, I want to thank everybody who's in this proverbial room with me today, and also give the description of the show. Overlord and the Underwoods follows the Underwoods, a North American family whose life is turned upside down when their distant cousin, Overlord, the second most wanted villain in the universe, seeks refuge in their home after being forced into an intergalactic witness protection. After snitching on his boss, the evil Colossatrotus, Overlord is sent to live with his incredibly nice, only known family on planet Earth, where we call home. Over the course of the series, the evil Overlord and the very, very sweet Underwoods discover a thing or two about each other as they learn to treasure the family and the importance of true friendship, diversity, and compassion. Now, enough for me. We have tons of people in this room. I want everybody to kind of go around, give a little two-line bio, be brief because we got a lot to get into in the next hour and 30 minutes. Anthony, I'll toss it to you.
Hi, I'm Anthony Q. Farrell. I'm writer, co-creator of Overlord and the Underwoods and showrunner. Yeah, that's what I do.
Welcome. Patrice.
Making me technologically sad. Hi, I'm Patrice Goodman, and I played Flower Underwood.
Welcome, Patrice. Darryl.
Hi, I'm Darryl Hinds. I am an actor, a comedian, and writer, and I play Jim Underwood.
Hi, Darryl. Roger.
Hi, I'm Roger Christian, and I helped design Overlord and RFLO, the two aliens.
Great designing as well. And of course, Mark.
Hi, Mark Bishop from marblemedia, one of the production companies behind Overlord and the Underwoods.
And there we have it. Before we get into this discussion, I want to toss to another clip, and then we'll have fun.
Aliens are real. Cool, right? Overlord, what did you do? Go to your attic, now!
I hate this house! I still can't believe me and you are even slightly related. Good evening, Underwoods! I brought you a gift.
Oh, gross.
He's the second most wanted villain in the universe, and now intergalactic bounty hunters are searching for him.
Is Bill Murray the lead?
Yes.
Then I'm Bill Murray.
He's an alien.
You shouldn't even be here. Shoot, shoot!
Whoa, you got a really sucky alien.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
That's my cousin Todd.
Todd is a very strange fellow.
Why is he dressed like
He's from California.
No one shall breach our globe of loyalty.
Is that like a circle of trust?
Circles are for losers.
So clearly we're having a lot of fun in this clip, and we're going to have a lot of fun during the session today. I want to start off with my first question. In the history of Canadian television, your show is the only and the second comedy TV series made by Black people on mainstream television and the first on CBC. So Anthony, Patrice, Darryl, whoever wants to go first, how does this make you feel?
I'll just say real quick. I mean, it's very exciting to me. It's very, it's something that we have been pushing for a long time, and it's nice that we finally we're finally here, and we definitely won't be the last, and there'll be more very soon. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I feel great. I've been. Since getting cast in the show, I've just been like pinching myself constantly. I'm like, this is great. This is great. And I say this all the time to like friends and family, like as silly and goofball and fun as this show is, I really think that it's significant because of that. We're stepping into, we're starting a ball rolling or keeping a ball rolling that needs to keep rolling, right? So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that we get to fill this space and fill it in such a fun and very accessible way.
I feel pretty much the same. I'm grateful to be a part of the first, and grateful that we won't be the last. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes down the pike and how many more interesting stories there are to see, because I just feel like the audience is it makes us better people, and as an audience and also as creators, it's nice to not have to kick down the door.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and it's nice too with this series, especially because it's not based in Black trauma. It's not based in anything that that we see a lot on our TVs. It's just a family. They happen to have a weird alien cousin who's in witness protection with them now. You very rarely see, BIPOC families in genre stories like this. So it's been fun to start breaking down some of these doors, especially with this series.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, I want to actually keep it on you. What inspired the conception of the series?
So this series was actually originally conceived by Ryan Wiesbrock, who is the co-creator of the show. He works with Cloud. He's one of the executive producers and is one of the creative directors for Cloudco. I wonder if it's probably better for Mark to jump into this, because they actually brought me on board after they had already kind of started thinking about how to start with it.
And it was kind of a neat, just on that, it was really a neat story of how that came to be. So as Anthony said, and again, this is for everyone's perspective, these things take a long time, because the first conversation about this show was almost a decade ago in LA, when our company Marble Media was meeting with Cloudco, sitting around talking about some of the favorite shows that we all had growing up, shows like Elf, which we talked about. We talked about movies like Harry and the Hendersons, and wouldn't it be wild to take somebody from another planet and have them live with a nice, normal, wonderful family and watch the chaos ensue. And to Anthony's point, it was actually Ryan Wiesbrock who was again still at CloudCo and one of the originators, kind of sitting around that table, who kind of took that idea and ran with it. Carrie Pop-Shaughnessy, who's our VP of Scripted at Marvel, kept running with it and kind of thinking about what this world could become. And again, in one of those lovely fortuitous moments that happened, and Anthony will have to correct me on the date, but I think it was late 2017 that Anthony had moved back to Canada after having a huge career in the US, and was meeting with a number of production companies, including Marvel, and had been meeting with CloudCo as well. And we had been looking for a project after having a great meeting with them that we could do together. So when this came up, Marvel and CloudCo said, okay, let's put together a short list of, who would be the most amazing showrunner that we could get, who would get the comedy, who could bring this show to life. Let's each, because it's, our two companies, Marvel and CloudCo, working together, let's put together a list and see if we have alignment. And without a word of a lie, both companies, the first person on their list was Anthony Q. Farrell. And we just felt like there could be, right away, it was just, okay, well, this has a great opportunity. And then Anthony came on board and just, I'll say the rest is history, right? Because really working with Ryan, with Carrie, to just really imagine what this world could become, and the wacky and zaniness that you see on screen. It's been a ton of fun. And so, like I said, it was a wonderful meeting of the minds. It took time, like any good idea does, to develop and get there, but we're really, really fortunate.
Yeah, I will correct the dates. It was you're off by a year.
Okay.
I moved back in 2017, but we started talking about it because you knew I was coming back at the end of 2016. So I was just looking at the documents. I was like, oh my gosh, they sent me. I got this email December of 2016, and then 5 years later, here's the show. And for you, it's like 10 years later. So it just goes to show TV is hard, people.
But good things are worth waiting for.
Good things are absolutely worth waiting for. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to toss it to Darryl and Patrice. What do you think is the theme that drives the series?
Silliness. The most ridiculous situation. I think Darryl had the best sort of put it together best when he told the story about his cat Bits and how the cat Bits would always come in and kind of ruin everything they were doing. I feel like that's sort of watching the mayhem of Overlord is like, he's like that cat that disturbs everything, but you love him anyway.
I think also a big thing is, yes, this absolutely ridiculous, crazy character coming in, but at the heart of it, and I think that's what draws any audience to any great and well-written show is the love of the family and the compassion that they have. As ridiculous and chaotic as this alien is in the lives of this family, they're so full of compassion and love and togetherness that they overcome everything. So really compassion and meeting somebody where they're at, which is something where we are in desperate need of nowadays. And look, I don't want to oversimplify things. Sometimes people are wrong and sometimes people are right. So not everything is like, oh, we need to, find a compromise. But there is certainly something when you lead with love and you lead with compassion, how bridging these gaps can, just be less of a chore. And that's what this show really shows, is that you can kind of meet somebody where they're at. They can meet where you're at, and you can always find a way out of the mayhem.
Also,
so, I think that's the great.
The connections are very much when we started on it, we're way down in the process as far as that when actors get the script, but the connections were very much on the page, and as actors, that connection that were on the page were so much easier to forge because you need that for a show to work. It was so much easier to forge because it was there actually in the script. So yeah, the love of the family is actually really the center, not the annoying cat.
No, that's a big aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Watching some episodes, it was very clear that this series is exceptionally written. And I want to know, Anthony, or Mark, feel free to join in. This was something that is a labor of love for a number of years, right? So what was that first break to actually get this series off the ground, to get it to where it is today?
I feel like, Mark, I mean, I think we had 5 or 6 different breaks.
Well, and some were false starts too. Sometimes you get, an offer from a broadcaster and you get excited and think, okay, this is the one. Okay, no, it's not. Okay, this is the one. No, it's not.
We started, I mean, the big one that I thought was like, oh, everything's happening, which didn't end up happening, was I think we sold the show initially to Hulu. We had a deal with Hulu initially. And then a month later, they got bought up by Disney, and then they weren't sure what they were going to do anymore. So then that fizzled, and I was like, "Hey, right back to the drawing board." But then eventually, our other partners came on: Nickelodeon, CBC, BYU TV. Mark and his team and Ron, they worked really hard to get as many people as possible in the right positions. But it was there are a few starts and stops, and I can get into like. When I really felt like it was happening was the first day of the writing, which was end of May 2020, and when people were throwing ideas at me for the show and that turned into the episodes that are going to be coming out. That to me was the first day. That to me was the day I was like, it's happening.
And I just want to give a props to the Bell Fund and we all know in Canada, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of funding agencies that help support content creation, and let's hope they remain in place. But the Bell Fund was one of those funds that came on board. They had just come out with a new fund, a Slate fund, which they still have, and they have a deadline coming up very soon. Not that I'm advocating for the Bell Fund, but they do have a Slate fund. And really what it's for is it's intended to help companies obviously grow their slate, as it's named, but to be able to go and write a script. And that's what we were able to do with Overlord and the Underwoods, and use that funding, again, to have Anthony write the pilot script. And that's really what opened the doors for selling the show. I mean, having that script that was just laugh out loud funny that people could read, right? It's one thing to pitch this concept, and obviously it's exciting, when you see it on paper, but then when you can actually take it away and read it, I mean, that script was funny, people still talk about it. And so having that in hand is really what enabled us to have a lot of those broadcaster conversations and go out there and make those sales.
Amazing. We have a question from the audience, actually. And I don't know who to direct this to because it wasn't directed to anybody. So whoever feels most equipped to answer the question, feel free to do so. How and who do you imagine will be watching the series? And follow up, how did this goal impact how the show was developed?
I mean, I'll start. I'll say, the how is depending on where you live in the world. If you're in Canada, it'll be on CBC Gem. So I suggest doing what I do, which is cast it from your phone onto your TV. A pro tip. It's for everybody, really. We literally were talking about who the show's for. We wanted a family show, a co-viewing show, something that you could watch. I watched the show. I watched cuts with my 7-year-old son, my 14-year-old daughter, and my wife, whose age I'm not allowed to say. So
wise man.
And we all laugh. We all enjoy the show. We all they always want to watch more episodes and more cuts. So I feel like it really is one of those rare shows that's like 6 to 80, where no matter what age you are, you're gonna get something fun out of the series. What do you guys and
for real? I thought the exact same thing. Initially when I first auditioned for it on paper, I saw the, kind of quick breakdown that they send with the sides, and I read it and I was like, oh, it's a kid's show. I'll audition because I'm an actor and I need to work. But it's a kid's show, okay. But then I realized Anthony was writing it, and once I heard that, I was like, oh, I know it's going to be elevated comedy. It's going to be something a little, higher up than just, kid level stuff. And when I read the script, Absolutely. So this show is for me. It is for me because I am a
Just
huge, just me. No, people like me, which I think is a lot of people. There's the folks who are watching the Marvel movies right now. That's me. Yeah, they'd watch this. It's like it's people who love Star Wars, which is almost everyone. They'd watch this. Star Trek folk, they'd like this. People who like family sitcoms, they'd like this. Family Guy audience, they'd like this.
It's true.
Everybody would love this. It's goofball, funny comedy, but on a level, in a way that shows like Arrested Development, or even a lot of Disney movies, hit different age groups. That's what this show is for, man. I'm a huge sci-fi nerd who grew up watching Star Wars and wanted to, be Lando Calrissian. So this show is for me.
And kind of are.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think there's a real opportunity with this show. I mean, what's so exciting to Darryl's point is that this truly is a family co-viewing show that families can watch together, right? And I think we saw that, if we can say one of the positives that came out of the pandemic was that families are home together more often and having more opportunities to actually watch content together. And so I think what's exciting is that the show comes out at a great time where families now are spending more time together, watching more content together. And we've created something that does, to Darryl's point, hits on a number of different levels, but it's something that families can sit down and watch and laugh together. I've got a 5-year-old and she loves it. She's watched almost every single rough cut. She also loves it because she met these guys when she came to set. And so she talks about it all the time. And because I think the highlight of her life was going to the Overlord and the Underwoods set. She always corrects me when I just call it Overlord. But, I just think it's so special that we've created something really unique that families can actually sit down and laugh together.
Just as a little side story, when I was learning my lines and I was reading my lines out loud, my partner, this is just me reading the lines, my partner laughed. That never happens. He never laughs at me reading his script. And then every night when I come home, I cuddle up with my son in bed before he goes to sleep. He started this habit of asking me, "Mommy, what did you say that was funny today? What was a joke that you heard that was funny today?" And I started giving him lines from the show, and he would giggle for like 5 minutes. So after that, after I saw it too, like with me delivering the lines, not even the actors who delivered it, that was very telling to me about who would be able to appreciate this show.
I actually have the exact same experience. My wife is an actor as well, and she helps me prepare all my auditions. And we've read a plethora of comedy, sitcom scripts, that I've been auditioning for, bit parts or bigger parts. And she read this one, and we read through it. We laughed at parts, and she's like, "This is really fun. This is really funny." Like one of those guys, like, "This is really funny." I was like, "Yeah, it's really good, right?" Yeah. And then she saw that Anthony wrote it, and she was like, "Oh yeah, of course it's funny. Of course it's funny."
Well, I definitely want to get Roger in here because he's being a little quiet bunny in the corner. Obviously, this show is very, very character design heavy. And I want to know how you got involved and why did you get involved in this series? And what was the process of creating these characters, costumes, and machine robots on a budget?
Well, I'd met Mark over, I was pitching something in there sometime, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yeah.
And then out of the blue, I got a phone call saying, would I come in and meet? And they then had me asked if I could help them design the two robots because they were a equal character to all the family in the show. So we got to work. Obviously, I met Ryan. We did it all through Zoom, of course, and as we work now in the world, and Anthony and Ryan. And then I had to absorb the characters, first of all, what they were going to do, who they were, how they are, and look at the budgets, look at how on earth we're going to make these things. It took me back to Star Wars, because the very first one, the first thing we ever did was develop R2-D2. That was impossible at the time because there was no radio control. And we had literally no money to do that and C-3PO. So we had to develop them. So I knew this was going to be, when there are shows like this, there's a budget that you have to adhere to. There's not like multi-zillions of dollars like they spend on The Mandalorian. So you have to take that into consideration. We knew that Overlord would be built on an actor, and that would be the character. And we knew that RFLO had to be radio controlled because he had to be like 3 foot high at some points and fold up. So we got to work between us. There was a lot of throwing back ideas and building it up. I brought on a sci-fi artist who I've worked with for over 30 years, Paul Bateman, who was a great friend of Ralph McQuarrie, who was the artist on Star Wars. And he and I he paints up beautifully. He's a really qualified science fiction artist. So he painted up the characters. So that way, Anthony and Ryan could see what we were doing all the time, and we evolved it from, things, you throw stupid things out like, oh, he's got to be like one of those vacuum sweepers that go around the floor, RFLO, and you have to learn. You don't have any egos, you just throw things out. Doesn't matter if it's really stupid, but we built him up like that. RFLO was a struggle to get made because of the radio control, and I also have a consideration that there's going to be a TV schedule. You're shooting all day long. It's very tough. And as soon as you get a radio-controlled mechanical robot on set, it's a nightmare. They're always breaking down. R2-D2 was the bane of our lives, this thing. We ended up pulling it around on fishing wires on the first Star Wars because it never worked. So that was a consideration. And then, C-3PO came to life, obviously, but Anthony Daniels brought that character to him. And the same on this Troy Feldman, who's playing him, has really brought him to life. We could create the costume, put the lights in, do all of that, but he's a character, and the actor underneath really shines through when you see it. And it's a fantastic show. It's so funny. And my 7-year-old now has watched some of the stuff when we were testing out, and he's going to be an avid fan.
Can I just say that I'm like grinning because the guy who created C-3PO and R2-D2 is working on the same show that I'm on.
I know.
That's crazy to me.
It's so crazy.
I'll also add, it's very difficult to work with him because when you start talking about the different robots and stuff, he'll start telling a story. He'll be like, "Yeah, I remember when George and I were trying to figure something out," and then you can't think anymore. He's telling stories about you. So, Roger, you told a story one time about George coming down and putting pennies in C-3PO's eyes, and then all of a sudden there he was, and I was like, my face melted. He just told me the origins.
That is a classic example of how things come about. We had 12 different clay heads of C-3PO. Ralph McQuarrie had drawn him. We had a brilliant sculptress. She created all the heads around his, and we ended up with one. We'd all sit around and say, oh, this doesn't work. And there were only 5 of us for 4 months. There was no money. There was just us. That was it, with George and Gary. And it was based on Metropolis Maria. So we knew it would work. And he ended up, and he had small eyes, a bit like Maria, and it just wasn't right. And the carpenter who we hired and the sculptress used to get, in England at that time, you had a tea lady who had greasy buns every morning full of sausages and eggs. They were terrible. and
greasy buns.
George loved them. It was, you don't get that anymore. She'd come around with a trolley with a big urn of tea. Do you want tea, love? And they'd had these greasy sandwiches. Anyway, on the desk in front of it were the coins left that from buying their greasy egg sandwiches. And there were 2 of the old English pennies. And George looked at it, picked one up, stuck it in 3PO's clay head, stuck the other one in, and there he was. There was C-3PO. There he was born. That's how things happen.
Try talking about characters after he tells that story.
No, but we did have, there were situations with Overlord where the helmet was too big, and then I had to try to encourage the people who were making it to pull it down in size, because I knew when they took it off the computer and made it, it would look enormous. And he had to have a right perspective. So there were things going on that all the time where you're changing things and developing things. But he's a great character, and he's he's part of the family. He is like, I always said RFLO is like a dog that's a bulldog that's very friendly to everybody, but suddenly it'll bite. That was my kind of encouragement of how to make him. And Overlord was this pompous kind of almost Renaissance king who was over the top all the time, and like these African dictators who put on medals and they have big shoulders, and that's their way of looking. So that's how we developed him as well. So he had that pomposity about him, but with a family, they're just ripping the hell out of him.
Wow. I kind of want to continue on this line of thought, Roger, because the girlies are all in the comments and in the Q&A asking so many things about character design. So keep it going with you. You mentioned already something that you had to think about, especially when it came to Overlord's helmet, the size, the design, and what it would actually look like once it was ready. Were there any other creative risks that you had to take when designing these characters, and what did you have to fight for?
There were, and the major thing is, how does a poor actor breathe? Because these things are horrible to put on, and you're under lights. Thank goodness the development of lighting now on sets is getting better. It used to be horrendous. It was so hot, but it's still hot, and you're working fast. So once you get into these costumes, you're really in. That is something that you have to kind of take into mind. We had to work out how to get the helmet on and off quickly for the poor actor, and then it's pushed up against the face. How do you breathe? And they're performers. He's performing all the time, so you don't want them thinking about, oh, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm so hot, everything. Troy is great from when I was there, now having heard, because he puts that helmet on and he loves it. He's just in love with this character. So that helps with the actor. And I remember talking about this, saying, I hope you've got somebody who's got A, a sense of humor, and B, who just embraces what they're going to do. However uncomfortable it is, it doesn't matter. We had to make it so that he can see. That's another big consideration when you're designing a robot like this. He's got to be able to act with the other actors, and that means acting with not just dialogue, because hearing is also a problem through those helmets, and seeing their expressions, and that's where they key off. So all of those things were pretty difficult. And the company that made it, just the shoes they made, I was taking a lot of care with Anthony and Ryan on how the feet would look. They were really uncomfortable, and in the end he brought his own boots in, which is what I was encouraged. He went off, shopped, and found exactly the right ones for the character and wore his own. So there's a myriad of little things, details that you learn as you make these and make mistakes, basically.
Anthony, I want to, transition on this same topic, but I have a question from the audience for you. How did you approach the lore and world building in this show? And were there any influences that stuck out? For example, Star Wars, knowing that you had Roger on the set.
Yeah, I really wanted to make sure that the world made sense. The great thing about and I've been talking to Roger about this. The great thing about Star Wars, Star Trek, these are the things that people love, is they start small. They start with a small core, characters, core family, and then you expand and you grow the world after you've met that core. So I was really focused on building building that core. One of the things we talked about with Mark and Ryan early was we wanted to make sure the family was just as engaging as Overlord. Because everyone, you hear Overlord, okay, that makes sense. It's going to be a crazy character. It's basically a funny Darth Vader. It'll be great. But what's the family? So I really wanted to make sure I put a lot of thought into who these characters were, so that if you had a show that was just the Underwoods, it would still be entertaining and interesting. Oh, and you throw in then Overlord, all of a sudden it's like it's twice as good. So in terms of like, we just kind of just try to find the funniest, silliest thing. We start thinking of like space names and fun things, and we just build as we go. We just kind of build it, and just kind of, there's a large document that has all the cool stuff that from Overlord's planet and all the places he's conquered and all those different things. And we just tried to keep an eye on all of that. And it, of course, the more people that come on board, the more fun things that we can talk about and we can do. So it's been it's a big collaborative process that is continuing to this day.
And speaking about continuing, Darryl and Patrice, how do you see your human characters growing? And of course, no spoilers.
Personally, how do I see it growing throughout the season or through
throughout the series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Jim my character is a pretty straight-laced, kind of like very organized person, very organized person, and you can only stay so organized when an agent of chaos comes into your house, right? So my character is kind of forced to become a little bit more spontaneous and a little bit more adventurous as the season progresses. You know, when you're dealing with somebody who's bent on ruling the world, and you just want to, you know, get your kitchen clean, you gotta step out of line sometimes, you know. And I think that's the fun part of Jim, is that, you know, he's learning how to color outside of the out of the lines as the show progresses, which is great and fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Patrice?
It's funny because Darryl and I, as a couple, Flower is a little bit opposite to Jim, where she is more free, you know, a little freer, a little more free spirited. And what I think is interesting is that when Overlord comes into their world, she has to, you know, partner up a little bit and be a little bit more responsible and try and keep him in order. She's kind of sometimes she can be the heavy hand and like tell Overlord to get his stuff together. So I'd be interested in seeing more of that. But the other fun thing I love is seeing all the relationships that the family has, not just with Overlord, but also all the other characters that inhabit their world, like Nana Kirkland, and all the, like, we had so many fantastic actors guest starring on our show. Like I can't wait to see more of who inhabits the actual world we live in, because there's a lot of talented actors, Canadian actors, that we got to enjoy on our show. The great Jane Eastwood plays Nana Kirkland, and that was just a thrill to have her.
Wow. Mark, I'm going to toss to you. We have an audience question.
Sure.
Was there any pushback from Canadian broadcasters for pitching genre content, especially for sci-fi, which tends to be seen as particularly expensive genre?
Yep, and that's a very good question. And I think that's why, I guess, to what Anthony was saying off the top when we were talking about, you know, how we had to have so many partners on board, because the question is spot on. It is an expensive show if you think about it in terms of how we finance it, and that's why we needed to have so many partners get on board and believe and see the vision of the show. And how epic we wanted to create this. So takes a village, and we had to get a lot of partners on board. But I would say the CBC, I mean, they came on board fairly early, as we were going out and pitching. And I think there was a nice alignment at the time because of, and it continues with what they're trying to do with GEM, right? Which is really trying to build it up as a flagship service. And again, we know, and then to do that, you need flagship titles that are going to be noisy and are going to connect with audiences. And again, you have more shelf space to take more risks. And you can get behind and really, promote something that, again, is a little bit different. And yeah, when you think about it, and again, with respect to the question, if you think about some of the other Canadian broadcasters, they, might not have the shelf space or have the appetite to take on the risk of doing this, right? It just kind of, slightly outside the norm of what you'd expect. And I think to that point, it's not a kid show, so it doesn't play on the kid networks. It's how does it find its audience? But I think in what we have in the opportunity with GEM, to really connect with audiences and give us the flexibility of doing something again that feels really noisy and different. And so with GEM as our lead, and with the other partners and the other financiers to help finance it, that's how we can get it up to a level where again it can compete again with other primetime shows and garner an audience.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. Before we get into our next clip, I do want to ask a question for Anthony. We talked a lot about every single character in the show except for the kids. So can you share a little bit more about what the kid Underwoods were like, not only when you were writing them, but also seeing them come to life?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 16-year-old Willow Underwood. She is the captain of all of our sports teams. She's a force to be reckoned with. She's also a teenager who's into social media and everything that comes with that. Then there's Weaver Underwood, who's 13. He's kind of like the buddy that Overlord hangs out with quite a bit. Weaver is like a storyteller that's trying to find his story, and then one crash lands into his backyard, and he's kind of like how Overlord is pompous and out there. Weaver is still unsure of himself, still trying to find himself. So there's a lot of space between them, but they work together to try and make each other a little bit more like the other person as they go. So yeah, the kids are Weaver's played by Ari Resnick, and Willow's played by Kamai Fairburn, and they're so good. They're excellent.
So
It's so good.
It is ridiculous how good they are.
They make us look bad. They're
constantly on set. We were just like, these kids are not real. They're better comedians than I will ever be. They're so good.
Reads novels in between takes.
In between takes, yeah.
And then they go to school, and then they come on and they're just brilliant. Ari is has the spirit of like an old-timey comedian.
He's like George Burns in a 13-year-old's body.
Same size body, though, funny enough.
Yeah.
I just want to say too, I mean, how amazing it is that we have a family that really from day one, like just had such incredible chemistry on screen. Like there's just so much love between these characters, and there's just an incredible glue that holds them together as a family. And, listen, I mean, we can talk later about casting and the challenges, especially during COVID times, in terms of how you do, bring together interesting talent and hope that they're going to have that on screen. But I think, again, led by Patrice and Darryl, as our parents, and then as a family unit, there's such great chemistry and love that I think everyone watching is just going to, A, it's believable, and B, it is, just something people are going to fall in love with these guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that, let's go to our next clip, and then we'll get more into the conversation in just a little bit.
I do not want to play basketball for family night, Willow.
That's because you can't shoot.
Well, maybe if you finally taught me.
Why not teach a horse how to fly?
That is a terrible analogy, because a flying horse would be awesome.
Okay, first of all, no one is going anywhere until we're done cleaning the kitchen. Also, this is a dessert fork, not a salad fork. What if the Queen were visiting? We would be humiliated.
And why would the Queen visit us?
Well, she's not going to if our forks are in disarray.
Guys, here is my family night suggestion. Art. I would love to work on my most recent piece, see?
Oh, what happened to your painting? It was coming along so nicely.
Oh, I didn't think it was good enough, so I painted over it so I could start fresh.
That canvas is looking kind of thick, Mom. How many times have you repainted it?
27.
Ooh, you know it would be super fun if we all reorganized the kitchen together.
No!
Hard pass. Do you hate this family?
All right, listen up, nerd guts. Tonight is movie night. And we shall be watching my favorite Earth movie, Titanic.
You've been watching that movie on repeat for weeks.
Yes, and it still makes me laugh.
Wow, we love the Titanic. Anthony, what was your casting process?
The casting process was bananas. We saw a lot of people, and we just really wanted. So first of all 20 scripts were written without a cast, so they're all colorblind. It was all colorblind. We didn't know what the family was going to, who was going to be. We didn't have any ethnicities or races attached to any of the characters. We just were committed to finding the best family we could find. So we had a very wide net that we cast to a lot of different people, and then it was a lot of great people. There's a lot of great actors in Toronto. They're all hungry for. They hear 20 episodes and they're like, "Well, who?" So we had like a lot of, and then we very difficult whittling it down. Then we got to a place where we finally were doing chemistry reads, and we had a lot of people come in to kind of like read with each other. Darryl read with Patrice, and they read with the kids, and so it finally got to a place where we all looked at it. And also, by the way, it's not just Mark and myself and Carrie and Brian. It's also the broadcasters who are part of it, CBC and Nickelodeon and BYU TV. So everyone was just kind of, we got to a place where we were like, we all looked at this family. We were like, these are the Underwoods. So it took a while, but it was worth it. We really wanted to make sure that this was the right family, and I think we nailed it.
I love that. These are the Underwoods. Darryl, Patrice, what drew you to your roles?
Well, Flower, when I received the script, it was actually my one of my best friends is an actor as well. And she called me up and she said, if your agent hasn't submitted you for this part, you need to get a reading for it. And when I saw the script, I saw the words adorable garbage kitten. That was a thing that my character was going to say. And it was so funny. And I laughed out loud. And I was like, this part, I get this woman. And I was certain that this was my part. I didn't know if anybody else was going to see it. But I was like, I understand her. And I also really appreciated the fact that, like, she was funny. A lot of the time when, women or a mom is in a script, she doesn't necessarily get to say anything genuinely funny. She's one of those people who's like, oh, you. But she had a really full character and hopes and dreams, and she had an inner life, and she also, the way she talked to her family was really distinct. The way she related to Overlord was really distinct. I loved the fact that she runs an animal shelter, because I love animals, and I had a dog, and I actually put him into my slate for the for the audition. It's the only one and only time I've ever used him to garner affection. He was so mystified of what he was doing in my audition, but I was drawn to it because she was just so well written and just had such a beautiful sense of humor that I was like, I will do anything to play this part. I loved her.
And as you said to me on set, is that it's not often that you get Black women in television, in anything really, getting to be goofy, just as goofy and silly and fun as everyone else. And that was the great thing about Flower. She's on the same level as she's as silly as everyone else. Sorry to interrupt, Darryl.
I just wanted to say, I think for I think a lot of the time Black women feel an extra pressure to make sure that whatever we do with dignity and excellence. And Flower is, of course, that, but it was really lovely to get permission to explore more, explore her vulnerabilities, explore her joy, explore her outright silliness, and insecurities, which are what makes a full person. And I just don't think we see that enough. I think Black women are usually viewed in a really specific way. So it was so great to be able to bring that to the character. It was already on the page, and then I was just continually encouraged. So that was really wonderful. Darryl, you.
Yeah. So the most cynical answer is what drew me to the role was 20 episodes.
I told you.
I'm a starving actor, and I was like, yeah, I get to work regularly? Yeah, man, I'm in. But what kept me in the role and what kept me actually interested and excited to this point, and even afterwards, because I've been in shows where I've done it and it's good. I got the paychecks, it's great. But, plugging the show, I'm just like, kind of like hush, hush. It's kind of like, oh, it's out there. It's okay. I got my paycheck. This show I am genuinely excited about because what drew me to it was specifically that it was what we've talked about. It was a genre role, and you do not see people of color in shows, and specifically in TV shows. You never see them in TV shows that play with genre, especially sci-fi genre. I've said this to Anthony many times, and I've shared it out, is that growing up, the things that I loved watching and I loved seeing were things like Back to the Future. I wanted to be Marty McFly so badly. The Ghostbusters, and the core 3 Ghostbusters who started the team were the 3 white guys. The things like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, as they said, Alf, Harry and the Hendersons, Mork and Mindy, all these stuff, all featured white people. So I loved all of these things growing up, I guess I internalized them. I thought this is the thing that I wanted to do, but I internalized the fact that I don't see myself in these characters. People like me and families like mine were not at the core of these adventures, usually. They weren't the ones being silly and fun and going on these fun adventures. I guess that's why I gravitated so quickly and hard to Billy D. Williams in Star Wars, because that guy looks exactly like my dad, and so I grabbed onto him for dear life because I didn't see that a lot. And when I saw this role and I saw that, when we got into the casting process and I saw it was all people of color and it ended up going to be a Black family, I was so joyful that I got to be a part of something, as silly as it may seem on paper, how important it is to be in a fun genre mixing, goofy sci-fi thing and be a person of color that's at the center of it. But yet the show is not really about that, and that almost makes it even more important. That's secondary. The fun family adventure is at the heart of it, and we get to be people of color driving that story, and that was so fun to me. And it was also great that Anthony, and this is the great thing about having a showrunner that is Black, a person of color, is that in writing the scripts were all written, and there was an episode where you meet my parents. He was very good about going, okay, so my cultural background, I'm half Black, I'm half Indian. So we're going to cast a Black and Indian mother and father for you. And we're going to have your parents be Jamaican, because my parents are Jamaican in real life. So we're going to have your parents on the show be Jamaican. He was very conscious about representing me culturally in the show as well. And I don't know if that would happen necessarily if the person in charge wasn't a person who empathized with culture
Mhm.
necessarily.
This is vital. This is why we're here, right? This is why we're having this conversation. So to know that not only your roles on the page jumped out at you, but also Anthony and folks who were on set were willing to work with you folks as actors to make it not just you, but also the characters larger than life is essential and speaks to exactly why we need more shows like this.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Thank you folks for being so candid.
Yeah.
Switching gears, I want to talk about aliens again. Roger, will there be any more aliens that come to visit that you will be designing?
I would think so. It's down to Anthony with his pencil. Right.
Oh, I'll get some more, trust me.
I think, uncles and cousins and friends from other planets would be a natural way to progress this into more chaos and more fun, because that mix, is these shows have to grow. They have to grow, and you have to widen the expanse. And what Anthony is saying, you start very small. You start with characters that the audience engages with, and then you grow it and you grow it, and you throw more obstacles in front of them. And the more obstacles would be some very fun aliens, I think.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Well, we'll see how if we get a season 2, if everyone watches the show and we get a season 2, then we'll explore that for sure.
So everybody has an agenda item. If you're attending, you're going to be watching the show. Make sure you watch it when it comes out on Friday. Thank you so much on CBC Gem. Anthony,
watch all of them.
Watch all of them. Absolutely, 10 episodes. Binge. That's exactly what the culture is needing.
And then tell all your friends about them too.
Absolutely. Anthony, what was the process of, if you did have staffing a writer's room?
Oh, so it was great. So actually what I did was I'm very big on diverse rooms. I'm very big on especially making sure the room's 50-50 men and women. Especially as a showrunner, I feel like as a male showrunner, it's important for me to have that other points of view to make sure the show is as well-rounded as possible. And that's one of the reasons why Flower is so well written, is because, obviously I have a lot of great women in my life, but it's great to have women writers in the room so that everyone's taken care of. So I had written 2 scripts in development, and we needed to write 18 more, so I needed a big old room. So I found I brought in Kate Hewlett, Ryan Belleville, Jay Badia, Amanda Joy, Callie Backus, Richard Young, Angelica Mendizabal, and then we had our writer's assistant Simon Owen and our script coordinator Sadia Durrani. And then I was trying to bring in writers who had not written before, so that I gave them each at least one script so they can get put in the door. And then as soon as I did that, then they all got jobs somewhere else, and I was like, what? All right, come back and see me sometime. But it was great. And then everyone was hilarious and so funny. The room was explosive with laughter. It was so much ridiculousness, and you could tell everyone really wanted to write for these characters, because we all grew up, just like Darryl was saying, we all grew up watching these great movies and these great sci-fi, and we had a chance to just kind of like turn as much of it on its head as possible. So we had a lot.
And I guess Zoom is having fun with Anthony. There he goes off into the Zoom source.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. There you go. Anthony, we missed the last part.
Oh, I was just saying, we spent most of the summer of 2020 just hiding from COVID in our virtual writer's room, just making jokes. So yeah, it was fantastic. They're all great. It was good.
That's great. I'm glad that you folks had that opportunity to not only deal with the quietness that we all had during the beginning stages of the pandemic, but also were very productive by writing all these episodes. Yeah. So I thank you and your team for that work. Folks, we're in our last 30 minutes. So if you have some questions, start asking them. I actually just have 2 more for Mark. And then I'm going to get it to just audience questions and audience questions alone afterwards. Mark, So we talked about this a little bit, but I want to get a little bit more into the details. How was the series financed, and who were some of the major players that were involved in the production?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, let me take you through. I mean, we've touched on some of them already here, but I think it's important to recognize, again, it takes a long time and it takes a lot of partners to come together to make all of the stuff happen. It takes those, early investors who believe in the project, because that's, we often say it's the first dollar and the last dollar that are the hardest to raise, because you have to really convince people to get on board with something that's nothing more than, 2 or 3 pages, and you hope people are going to buy into it. And so, like I said earlier in the discussion, how fortunate we are in Canada to have some of these private funds, which are long established and are really about nurturing talent, trying to keep people here in Canada working and growing the industry. And for us, that was, like I said, the Bell Fund with their Slate Fund initially. That's what kicked us off in terms of being able to write that first script, which is really what we took out to start getting partners on board. As Anthony and I were joking before, there's a lot of false starts in this industry where you get excited to go down a road and you get one partner that you think for sure, and you even get a contract and you just wait to sign it and it doesn't happen. So we've all been down that road before. But again, we were really fortunate, that CBC came on board through CBC Gem, and seeing the value of the show and coming on board. Because again, it's a snowball you have to create with these shows, right? Which is, again, getting a number of players, making sure everybody sees the vision, but getting a number of players to come on board. From there, it was Nickelodeon and Viacom International coming on board for the series. It was BYU TV coming on board. It was ITV in the UK coming on board. So again, growing and building. And then as well, some of the other private funds coming on board. The Shaw Rocket Fund, again, who fund kids and family content here in Canada. Cogeco and their fund through the IPF. I think I have everyone, and the tax credits. So I want to make sure we don't miss anybody, but
tax credits.
Exactly. Well, all of these pieces, yay! Exactly. So all of these pieces to kind of come together to make these things happen. And again, it's one of those things where maybe years ago you could just get one Canadian partner on board, but that's not the reality of the situation anymore in terms of the state of the industry. And the ambition that Anthony set out with this show is really to think big and make something that, again, is a primetime show and can compete with other shows. So we had to, find the financing that would enable us to be able to do that and to attract people like Roger to come work with us. And, even though, Roger was wonderful because he understood the budget, parameters that we had to work within, but still also thought big. And that's the thing, you have to keep thinking big, even though there are still budget constraints. And we had an incredible team, led by Jim Corsten and his team, on our production side, who were helping us, balance that and kind of manage all of that as we move forward. So, all of that kind of allowed us to move forward. As Anthony said, it was, a number of different stages in terms of we could get so far and we could start the writing room, and then we could get so far, so I won't go into all, exactly what happened at every step of the way, but needless to say, it was a number of partners all coming on board to realize this vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And follow up with that, and then we're going to get to the audience questions. What are some of the distribution plans? Obviously, we know it's going to be on CBC Gem.
Absolutely.
What's happening with the show?
Well, exciting. I wish I could announce some of the other sales that are coming down the pipe. But again, it's marblemedia and Cloudco, our two companies who are doing the sales, and they just came back from MIPCOM in France last week. And it's something that you don't see very often. But when you go to market with something, and it's odd because the show's not fully completed yet. We're still in post-production and finishing up the last episode. So when you go to sell something, you can only show bits and pieces, and we only really had 2 completed episodes by the time we were sending out screeners and showing broadcasters. And I can tell you the excitement, in the international marketplace, the sales that we've already started to make, the more that are in negotiation and discussion, like you just feel sort of this groundswell when people see it. And you watch them, like it's so incredible. And you watch them, they laugh out loud, like buyers laugh out loud and they see it. And so I think there will be more news to be able to announce, once the show is rolled out and, if everyone here has a chance to see it. I think everyone definitely on this call and, everyone in Canada can be proud of what we're creating, because there will be more sales to be able to announce soon, with buyers who are picking this up and seeing how unique and special and hilarious the show is.
Well, we all know what our homework is. On Friday, October 29th on CBC Gem, we're going to be watching the show, all 10 episodes. So make sure you're there watching it. Enough of Samah's questions. Let's get into the audience questions. Coming from the YouTube live stream, will the show air in the US? If so, what network can it be found on? Any leads?
Yeah, so in the US, it will be on BYU TV, launching in November, the date to be announced very soon. So we'll be able to announce that very shortly. And then it will be on a streaming platform at some point as well, but I can't say who just yet. So stay tuned.
Big plans.
But the US premiere will be on BYU TV in November. So watch it there. You can stream it on their website if you're in the US only. So you'll be able to stream it there. And yeah, so you will be able to see it in the US starting in November.
Amazing. There it is. We have another question. Who were some of the guest stars on the show? And can you share them now?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot. We had Jane Eastwood played Nana Kirkland. We had Hattie Cragdon play Beaver's best friend, BB. I was just talking to Jan Arden, of course, plays the voice of ROFL with Troy Feldman, who is one of the other stars. Chris Siddiqui and Aurora Brown. They come in and play. You're gonna get to see their episode in the first 10. They are
Aurora's from Baroness von Sketch.
From Baroness von Sketch. Miguel Rivas from the Beaverton. He has quite a ridiculous role. Chuck Drysdale. So funny. There are a lot of really talented Canadian performers who came through. And what was nice was that they all were very complimentary about our set, the vibe of the show. Like, we had just a lot of fun, and it was just a great time. And thankfully, every single one of them were like, "Bring me back!" So hopefully, we'll get to play some more in season 2 and get to bring some people back. But it's a great lineup.
That is something that we didn't really touch on. How positive the set was. I've worked on a lot of sets in Canada, and varying degrees of good and bad. Some sets are fine, but this is honestly, every day was a joy to come in. Everyone was so everyone, and it came from the top down. Everyone was so positive and cooperative and nurturing, and everybody was just open to hearing other voices. There was not tension at all, and there were we had schedules to keep, man. There was no tension. It was a joy to be a part of this show. I can't be brave about it enough.
Oh, sorry, Darryl.
No, go.
I think a big part of that was I've been on a lot of shows too, and it really does come from the top, and having smiling faces. And also Anthony, the first day he said to all of us, he said to the crew, cast, and everybody, if you see something, say something. And that made such an impression on me, because it gives permission for everybody to take ownership of the process. And when everybody takes ownership, they bring their love and care to it. So, we saw excellence in every department, in props and wardrobe and makeup and the grips. I mean, I had the best boy come to me, and I bumped into him somewhere, and he had casting opinions. He cared so deeply about the show that he because I like to check in with him. I wanted to check in with everybody and see how they were doing. And he cared so deeply to tell me about what he thought about the cast, and he loved us. And that made I think it really makes a difference when you guys, Mark and Anthony, when you so clearly care and have so much trust, and you just give the good vibes. It means that all of us can have good vibes. So I'm grateful for that. And
there truly didn't feel like a hierarchy at all. Most sets, everybody in every department, it just felt like, from actor to director to the grips to, catering, everyone just felt like a family. We were all, open to talking to each other, and nobody was like, oh, you can't talk to the actor or the director. Everyone was just like, let's all just do the best job we can, and everyone was just so cooperative. It was so great. It was great.
Yeah.
Wow. We have another question. This one is for Mark. Why did it take so long for something like a project like this to be made in Canada?
Oh,
it's really not Mark's fault. Let's just make that clear.
Yes, I'm sorry it took so long. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, I think it is challenging. I'm not going to get on my soapbox about the Canadian industry and how we have to, rally behind protecting our industry in Canada and make sure we have funding for our industry and keep these funds and keep people investing in content that we make here in Canada with Canadian talent. Because I think, obviously it is important. I mean, obviously the industry has also been changing, right? I mean, if you look at, changes that have happened in terms of private broadcasters aren't spending as much on domestically produced, independently produced domestic Canadian content, right? And so you have to find different ways to finance your content. So it just takes longer, right? And there have been challenges, in terms of getting that funding from Canada. And I think there's, a number of different reasons, which again, this is not the discussion to kind of go into the funding models in Canada, but I think it is really important that we preserve and protect that special thing that we have in Canada, which is nurturing amazing talent and being able to create content here at home. That will mean, of course, attracting, investment and other partners from outside, of course, right? And we're all watching different streaming services, and it's great that we have that ability to bring in different partners to work with us and raise all of our game and, create premium content that is amazing here at home and can be exported around the world. But it takes time to put all of the financing together, to find all of the partners. As Anthony pointed out, you can go down the road with one partner and think you've got a deal in place, and then they go and get bought by Disney and things change, and then you have to start over again, right? And there's a lot that's out of our control. But I think there's a lot that we are really have an advantage of Canadian talent to be able to really make great shows here at home in Canada. It just might take a little longer and might take some more partners, but it's worth investing in. If there's anyone from the government listening tonight, keep investing in Canadian content.
I think Canada is so careful with their money too. We're so unsure. We have to wait for America to approve, and then we can start, being proud of it. We're so tentative with our money that it's harder to take risks on something that might feel a little bit more niche or a little higher concept. It's harder for people to take risks on that in Canada. So I really applaud CBC for having the foresight to look at this show and go, this is something that we can, get behind. And on top of the fact that this could be considered niche, even though it's family, could be considered niche or high concept, to have a family of color be the ones driving it is another, step removed in going, ooh, it's something to worry about. But CBC was like, no, man, let's do it. The world is changing.
Well said, Darryl.
That's great.
And I think a big part of that at CBC too, just to their credit, I mean, and I look at Anthony, because we had to have a lot of meetings with each of the different departments at CBC, because there is no sci-fi department at CBC. There's no family department. So there's no department where this show actually fits, but it took a whole bunch of champions, right from, kids to drama to comedy to programming, and everyone in Gem, of course, so all the different departments to kind of see the vision for what this show could become and kind of get on board and championing, making this happen. So again, it's, I'm sure if they got up on a panel today, they wouldn't say this is, they're not looking for a sci-fi family comedy, but that's, it's a special, unique project. And we had a lot of champions internally there that really believed in what it could be.
And we have one last question from the audience. It is a simple but vital one. How do we access CBC Gem?
Great. Well, Anthony, do you want to take through your great demonstration from earlier about
so
how to access it, step by step?
Couple things. So you can just go online on your computer, CBC Gem, press enter. It'll be the first thing that pops up. Click on that. Overlord and the Underwoods will be there. And then you press those buttons and it'll take you to the show. One of the thing that I do on my telephonic device is I have an app Go to your Play Store, go to your App Store, download CBC Gem, and then I watch it there. And what I'll do is I will cast it from my phone with there's a little button that pops up with a little box and some other little squares and stuff, and I can cast it to my smart TV from my phone. And then I can watch it on TV.
And if you need help, Anthony and I will come to your house and install it for you.
Just I mean, on Twitter. I will.
Yes, exactly. As long as you promise to watch all the episodes, we will personally come and visit.
Absolutely.
And just to say as well too, it is free. So the app is free if you don't mind watching some commercials. So the app is free, CBC Gem, and if you want to subscribe to it, then you can get rid of all those pesky ads.
Amazing. Well, I have to acknowledge this. There is so much love in all of the comments. Andy Marshall said, congratulations on this show, Anthony and everyone. There are so many comments. We have somebody, Lewis Taylor, they have to leave, but they really enjoyed this session. Yes. Millie Spence is saying Anthony's the best with a lot of 100 signs. Just everybody make sure you go through the comments. And
her son is also one of the stars too. Her son, Sebastian, he is one of the, he plays Connor in episode 2. He's
amazing.
Connor.
He is ridiculous. Can I just quickly tell a story about Sebastian?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in March, Sebastian looked at his mom and said, I think I want to be an actor. In April, he got a part on our show as a recurring actor. In May, he got a part in Take Note as one of the leads. This kid, I had to tell him so many times, just so you know, this is not how it goes. So just be aware. But he is such a phenomenal actor. I hope he's not too busy to come back for season 2, because I know he's gonna be a superstar.
Booked. And you know what? Everyone who has not already gotten the memo, CBC Gem, Friday, October 29th, that's when you're going to watch not only the first episode, but all the episodes. You'll see Sebastian in action, you'll see Darryl and Patrice in action, you'll also see the amazing work of Roger, Mark, and Anthony. I want to thank everybody for their questions today, and also for joining us. I also want to say thank you to everybody in this proverbial room, everyone on the panel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent.
Of course.
We're really pleased to be here, and I think what you do is so important, and we really appreciate it.
I'm blessed to be here. I really appreciate not only being able to be the moderator for the session, but also for the Black Screen Office hosting this virtual event. Again, folks, we are going to end off on a lovely Black Screen Office trailer. But if you didn't get the memo, CBC Gem, Friday, October 29th, watch Overlord and the Underwoods. All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you,
guys.
Good night.
Thanks.
Once you're in the room, you're only in the room if you have done the work.
When you're given an opportunity to say something, but also allow others around you to speak their truth as well.
Part of what you want to do is develop a knowledge of the industry, and then you want to develop a knowledge of your own skills and where you could improve and where your strengths are.
It's going to take longer than you think. It's not always good to be an overnight success.
We can create our own stories, and we can also exist in spaces that aren't the traditional Black immigrant dream.
Stay hungry, be hungry, and study your craft.
And I think it's about, everyone taking off that umbrella and really getting those UV rays and really shining and showing who you are and being confident in it.
My name is Sasha Lee Henry.
My name is Miriam Charles.
My name is Lydia Daou.
Hey, it's Jordan Oram, and this is my first break.